many Nigerian students, the journey to accessing quality education is not just about, acing their exams. Actually, it's about overcoming some financial hurdles, of course, that stand in their way, especially for those from less privileged backgrounds. Now, the stark reality is that countless talented young Nigerians are being held back from realizing their full potentials, and simply because they can't afford the cost of education. Now, this financial constraint forces many of them into difficult balancing act, something like, of course, taking on menial jobs to make ends meet, and that really, really resonates with me. Or in some, cases, some of them abandon their education altogether, but recognizing the severe impact that this would have on individuals and the nation's, of course, future specifically, the federal government stepped in with what it called student loan scheme. Now, this scheme is aimed at addressing, attending government-run tertiary institutions, addressing the needs and the financial situations of students who, may be in that circumstance. But today, there's renewed sense of hope among students who applied, for this new loan. Now, we hear that their loan applications have been approved by the Nigeria Education Loan Fund, that's Nelfund. Now, Nelfund says it has already started disbursing the loans directly to the institutions of successful applicants, now helping, hopefully, to ease the burden of students in those institutions. And additionally, those who requested it in their applications will receive, we will, get further clarification about this, a monthly upkeep allowance of 20,000 naira. And well, it may be small, but it's a significant support that can, of course, make real difference in the lives of, our students. And like I said, this issue of financial issue resonated with me years back. And of course, I had to interrupt my education to, make ends meet. But away from that, so far, Nelfund has disbursed, millions of naira to, thousands of students across government-owned higher institutions in the country. And it marks a crucial step towards ongoing effort to make higher education more accessible and achievable for all Nigerian students. And of course, that will resonate with the UN goal of education for all. So in this week's edition of Late Edition, we will be sitting down with the Managing Director and CEO of Nelfund to delve deeper into how this loan scheme for students is being implemented and how students can access it. And of course, we will also be joined by an undergraduate from one of the higher institutions in the country. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. Thank you for joining me. All right, so let's begin our introductions. You may not instantly recognize the name Oluwole Akintunde Sawyer in the political, ecospace. But this is a man whose work speaks volume across multiple industries. He's known for his deep-rooted integrity and experience, and Mr. Sawyer has made a mark in various sectors. We hear from logistics and agricultural development to healthcare. Now, with a degree in chemistry from the University of London, his career spans over 3 decades, working with big names like DHL, where he managed complex supply chains across 21 countries in North Africa, the Middle East, and of course, Turkey. But that's not all. He's also co-founder of the Agricultural Fresh Produce Growers and Exporters Association of Nigeria. Now, this bridges the gap between the private sector and Nigeria's government to support the fruit and vegetable industry. We hear that in April 2024, Mr. Sawyer was appointed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the inaugural CEO and MD of Nelfund, that's Nigeria's student loan agency, with a promise to deliver transparency and fairness. Now, He says he's set out to make a huge difference in the lives of young Nigerians seeking higher education. Now, my second guest is a student, an undergraduate student, Rashidat Mohammed Nasri. She's an undergraduate in the Department of Political Science and International Studies at the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. She says she's had the honor of serving as the PRO for her department, and now she's aspiring for a higher position within the Faculty of Social Sciences. Now, she attended Jettas Mansuri Academy for her primary education and later attended the Government Girls Secondary School, Dutse Alaji, here in Abuja, the Federal Capital City, for her secondary education. Now, alongside her academic pursuits, Rashidat says she is deeply passionate about activism, particularly in the social, political, and youth-driven courses. Now, she loves expressing her thoughts through poetry and have won awards for her efforts at the faculty level. Additionally, Rashidat has worked with different networks and, of course, an NGO where she engaged actively with women and youth to gather data and insights on local gardening practices. It's an experience, she says, inspires her to keep pushing for positive change in our society. So let me first of all welcome the Managing Director and CEO of Nelfund, Mr. Uluwole Akintunde Soya, to our studios. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation, and indeed we are grateful.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Claire. Thank you for inviting me.
And Rashidat, we are glad you could join us. Thank you very much. I know that you will join us very soon, and to be part of our conversation as we earlier indicated. But let me start with the MD CEO of Nelfund. Give us an idea in the first place. Like, I said earlier on that the issue of having to do some other additional work just to, go to university resonated with me during our own time. But what was the immediate prompt for government to do this now?
I think that the passion of the President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his recognition that the only way to fight poverty is by giving education to the people. I think that's really the prompt. That's where this begins, the appreciation and understanding by somebody in such a powerful position to actually have the courage to say, look, even though this is a long-term investment, even though there will be pain, even though it may not bring immediate returns in terms of being popular with the people, it will have a long-term benefit for the nation and the individuals. I think that's really the prompt. I was invited to come and support what I believe to be a very laudable initiative, a great vision, and I'm here supporting that. I think it's critical. The reason we're sitting here today is because we had an education of sorts that perhaps put us ahead of others. It's not because we're special, it's because we had opportunity. And I think that opportunity is what this program is trying to deliver to millions and millions of Nigerians, young people in particular, who just don't have it for one reason or the other.
Sometimes we come up with policies without aligning our policies with data. And most times, development experts would, recommend when you're coming up with policies, ensure that you have adequate data so that policy aligns with data and then you achieve the result. And I'm wondering, is this policy just sheer on the spot thought, or is it driven by data of students who actually have this difficulty in pursuing the academic career?
Yeah, I think it's data driven to a very large extent. And the data goes, it's deep rooted, it's from very many different sources. So we know, for example, that we have some of the highest poverty rates in the world. And those rates are accelerating. That's data. We know that our education system doesn't necessarily allow for people who want to get a good education to be able to access that education. The poverty itself means that people are separated from their ability to achieve their capability, if you like, because they have no money or very little money. We know that we live in a country with high numbers in terms of family. The average family size is about 5. We also know from data that about 80% of family income is targeted in general towards education, leaving only 20% for people to be able to do the things that they need to do with their lives. That's quite a small amount of money to leave people with. And we also can see, you know, the data speaks for itself, but I can't give you specific numbers, but we have banditry in this country. We have insurgency in this country. We have people who are depressed, who are suffering from depression. We have people who are trying to leave the country. We have something like 35% youth unemployment. You know, the data is clear. We don't need to drill down and to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We can see the issues, we can see the problems, and all of them stem back to the lack of access to education.
It's good. I know that ultimately all of this comes down on the ability of parents to fund the education of their children, especially those from indigent background and all that, and that impact on the quality of education. But you talked about the system, the type of educational system not given opportunity for people to really actualize their dreams. Can you pinpoint the gaps?
Yeah, so look, I think there's been huge underinvestment in education over many decades. Okay, by underinvestment, I mean, if you look at some of the institutions that people are expected to go and learn in, if you look at the learning environment, you find that it's very difficult. It's not conducive for people to learn. When you look at what people are paid to teach other people, again, if you look at what lecturers perhaps earn, it isn't enough for them in many cases to have a living wage. We've got to find better ways of funding those who are teaching. We've got to create opportunities for better learning environment. And we've also got to realize that for a lot of people, the option for them is to go and do a menial job, which they can get instant gratification, if you like, because they get funds or they get money immediately, or to suffer the experience of going to an educational institution where they will spend years being broke, years having very, very little, in the hope that when they graduate, they will then be able to realize some sort of income. I talked about unemployment earlier. That in many cases hasn't happened because of neglect over the decades of the education sector. Now with this, what's going to happen? Essentially, if we connect more people to education, what you're going to find is that some of these people will go out and create jobs. They'll go and start companies and create jobs. Some of them will be able to get jobs they otherwise would not have been able to compete for.
When you graduate and you're given a certificate, I'm reminded yesterday in one of our programs by the VC of Ilorin that you are, if you observe what is written there is you are credited with having graduated in learning and in character. So it's a holistic thing, personality that we build when we have quality education. But I hear that Rashidat is with us now. Rashidat, if we can see you. Thank you, Rashidat. It's good to have you with us. And the MD of Nelfund is here. So please, can you share with us what's the experience of some of your peers in the university, in terms of having to fund their education, pay their school fees, pay their hostels, and of course feed themselves. What's the experience like?
It's really tough here, honestly. Due to the increment of school fees, I think we were paying around 20,000 as at 100 level, but now we are paying up to 69. Some departments are paying 100 plus presently. And when it comes to the aspect of feeding themselves, due to the inflation in the country right now, all the prices of stuff have gone high in the market. So students find it hard to even secure one meal a day, which is affecting the their academics. If I'm to ask my take on this Nelfund issue, most students actually don't have this, we're not giving admission from JAM, and you need that admission to access the loan when it comes to all the loan thing. And students don't really need the loan. From my own point of view, we actually need bursary due to the effects of the loan, the future effects of the loan.
Rashida, thank you. We will go deep into the loan for now, and I'm happy that we have the MD. He will make more clarification as regards whether it is bursary, whether it's grant, or whether it's loan, and the repayment processes. But just give us more example of the need. You understand, a lot of students are going through the same thing, the same experience you have given us. But let us feel the impact. What is it that students are going through in your institution, for instance?
In my institution, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, actually we have a lot of students that are the ones sponsoring themselves in the school. So they find it hard to even pay their school fees. As at last semester, we learned before the exams, when the exams were about to commence, we learned that some students were not even able to pay their fees. So the HODs and the deans had to help some students pay their fees, and we, the students, among ourselves, we were able to contribute and help. In my own department, we have about 37 students who are not able to pay their school fees. And some students even faint in class due to the fact that they were not able to eat or get something to eat for a whole day and stuff like that.
So is there those students who are not able to meet up with their school fees or hostel accommodation fees and all that, what normally happens to them, and how do you, as a youth leader, faculty leader, what steps do you take, to support?
Okay, we were able to reach out to our HOD, Dr. Rehanatu, who assisted and was able to seek for support from outside the school to help the students pay their school fees. And the accommodation issue, which leads to the insecurity issue too. When students are not able to get accommodation and all, they go outside school trying to squat with one or two, which is not good. So we try to let the Dean Student Affairs know about that, and we support to the best we can. Among ourselves, the students, we contribute, because the federal government, I don't think the federal government know about this. They don't. The accommodation issue.
So what normally happens? Because I want to establish whether or not there is really a challenge, whether students in higher institutions are really going through, challenges that could impact on their overall well-being, on their career future, and on the nation's ability to also, plan and, and develop.
Okay, the whole thing about the student, how it all affects the students, we can actually see that all these students that are not able to pay their fees, some of them get withdrawn, which affects their dreams. It affects, when one can't afford meal, it also affects the academics. Some of them don't even have money to pay for all these projects, group works, printouts, course form, or even the handouts, which is bad. It drops their CGPA and all.
You think, in the light of what you have said now, the federal government has come in with, a policy to assist. I know you said what you need is bursary payment. The MD will clarify the payment, pattern. But what do you think of the effort by government to be able to provide a window of support for these caliber of students that you have talked about, particularly in your school?
Okay, the government are actually, they are really doing their best, honestly. With those whole loan, the student loan they come up with, it's really good. It's assisting. But the problem we have here is the fact that one needs, okay, it says the parents of that person who is going to be eligible for the loan should not earn up to 500,000 annually, which we all know is nearly to impossible, because even those earning 1 million annually find it hard to even support their children in school. You hear a case of maybe in a family, they have 3 or 4 children in all these higher institutions. So it will be hard for them to support them financially due to the increment of everything, the school fees, the accommodation, food stuff outside in the market. It's not easy, honestly. But it's still the federal government have done well. We really appreciate. But as I've said, we need bursary instead of the whole loan thing. Because at a young age, you make us debtors when we are not sure after graduation we'll get a job to even repay the loan. 1 year after university, it's NYSC. And after NYSC, we are not sure if we'll even get a job outside. It's another thing.
Rashida, thank you. And I don't think that it's the intention of government to actually make you a debtor at your young age. But we will take a short break. Please stay with us, Rashida. We'll take a short break. When we come back, I'll now give the opportunity to the MD to walk us through the process of this loan and the implications it will have on both the students and the parents. You're watching Late Edition. Let's take a quick short break. We'll be back. Welcome back, and this is Late Edition. Today we are engaging the CEO and MD of Nigeria Education Loan Fund, Nelfund. We also have with us student Rashidat Mohammed Nasri of the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. She's a gender and social activist and of course a youth leader. So let's get back to the studio. MD, you heard Rashida and all her concerns. So now kindly walk us through the nitty-gritty of the Nelfund, and then you can also address the concerns, the basic concerns that she's raised.
First of all, let me commend the lady that just spoke,
Rashidat.
She's a future leader. She's already demonstrating great leadership skills, which, if properly harnessed and valued, will take us, or take at least the people who follow her to the place they need to go. So I commend her. Thank you. I think the points that she has raised are very valid. and I will try to address some of them as we carry on in this conversation. But essentially, let me talk about the loan, as you've asked me to do. So what this loan does, and what it is an opportunity for eligible Nigerians who are seeking tertiary education in any government-owned institution to be able to apply for some funds from the government that will allow them to have unfettered access to the institutions that they have chosen to go to and have accepted them as students in that institution. The loan itself is split into two parts. One is the tuition, if you like. Most federal universities, well, all federal universities don't have tuition, but they have what we call institutional charges. The state institutions, the state government-owned ones, also have charges, some which include tuition. This is usually a bridge too far for many students. The tuition or the institutional charges can prevent a very capable student, a very capable individual, from being able to access classes, courses. And so this loan enables the applicant to apply for 100% of their course fees, institutional fees, which, if they are successful in applying for the loan, will be paid in its entirety directly to the institution. It also allows them to apply for an upkeep stipend, if you like, that is paid directly to the individual on a monthly basis.
Is that the 20,000 naira?
That's the 20,000 naira. That's what it is now. So if you imagine that you've taken the burden of the fees away for that individual, and then on top of that, we're providing this stipend, Nelfund is providing this stipend, it actually makes a huge difference in terms of their ability to survive on campus.
Can the applicant apply for both, windows? Can they take advantage of both windows simultaneously at the same time?
So the applicant can make simultaneous applications for both. However, one is contingent on the other. So you can't apply for the stipend alone. They are only entitled to apply for the stipend if they've applied for the institutional fees and have successfully, they don't have to successfully receive that. But once they've applied for the institutional fees,
you're entitled.
They're entitled to apply for the stipend. If they're granted the institutional fees, they will be granted the stipend automatically.
Okay.
But you can take just the institutional, but you can't take just the stipend. You can take the two as long as the institutional fees, because we want to ensure that this loan is actually for education. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes.
Do you want me to carry on talking about the loan?
Yes, please go ahead.
So essentially, once the loan is applied for and we make the determination as to whether or not the individual needs the loan and we can approve that loan, what happens next is that...
How do you determine that?
Okay, so essentially there are a number of criteria that the law stipulates that the person must have. One is that they have to be a Nigerian. So they need a national identity number, which we cross-check with NIMSI to ensure that is valid. They need a JAMB number. Okay, so for this particular segment... That's
JAMB registration number.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, JAMB registration number. So they have to have that, and it correlates, or it is...
Why, sorry to interject, why did you opt for JAMB and not the matriculation number of the applicant student?
Well, we take the view that, JAMB is the standard that enables people to progress unhindered through their careers into the future. JAMB is very strict about ensuring that there's some sort of uniformity and standardization.
Okay.
So we've opted for that. It also is a unique identifier of an individual in an institution. So if an individual, to your question very specifically, if JAMB is bypassed and people have a matriculation number but no JAMB number, it will cause them some problems and some difficulty in the future.
Absolutely, which is what we're seeing, and JAMB is trying to address that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we go with JAMB, and then of course matriculation if they're already in the institution, or admission number if they're not. So that's really the specific reason. Remember, this is well, maybe I shouldn't say remember, but I should tell you that this loan and the application process is totally free of human intervention. So you don't need to see anybody to get this loan. You need to apply through an online platform, and then based on the assessments and the determinations that we make, and you asked the question earlier, so there's JAM, there's matriculation number, there's BVN, there's NIN. Based on us being able to uniquely identify people using those particular data points or metrics.
Why did you decide to pay directly to the institutions? And what if the students apply, but the institution is not keen into the scheme? I mean, the institution itself, it's not, is not favorably disposed to this scheme, or is not willing to participate in this scheme, but there are students within the institution that have applied.
Sure.
Yes.
So, first of all, to address the first question you asked, why did we decide to pay directly to the institution? The reason is very simple. It's the institution that's providing the education. There's confirmation that the individual is at the institution. We don't want to leave room for diversion of funds to anything other than the intention. And the intention is to ensure that the institution receives the funds in full, so that we can hold the institution and the student can hold the institution accountable for access to all of the learning opportunity that is there. We pay that directly to the institution. It also limits the opportunity for fraud, for people to misappropriate, to divert, to, it limits that opportunity. So going further, the second half of your question was talking about what if institutions don't key in. So again, these loans are specifically targeted at government-owned institutions. Nelfund is a government entity. The institutions are owned by government and overseen by regulatory bodies, NUC, MBT, NCCE.
So it becomes mandatory.
It is absolutely mandatory. We will not allow any institution to deprive their students of the opportunity to apply for this loan.
So I'm going to be fast forwarding us. So at the moment, because we read and see a number of figures, on the internet, we don't know what to believe. So it's better to hear from, as they say, proverbially, the horse's mouth. How many institutions, how many students have actually received, their own fund?
Okay, so you will forgive me if I don't give you specific numbers, because as we sit here, the numbers are moving. But what I can tell you is that about 10 days ago, we paid 6 institutions the institutional charges for the students or the applicants who we approved as having received those, qualified for those loans.
Yeah, some institutions like University of Ibadan have come up, but please can you give us the names of these institutions that were actually received?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So the ones that we know have received, the University of Benin has received and have confirmed that they've received the funds. University of Ilorin, we believe, has received and have confirmed. University of Ibadan, BUK, Bayero University, Kano have received. So those are some of the ones. I can't remember specifically.
You said 6. Let me pause
fifth
you.
or sixth.
Let me pause you. Rashida, are you still with us?
I'm still
yes. So let us know if there are some students within your university that have also applied, and what is the disposition of your school towards this scheme?
Okay, in my school, Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, we were told to apply for the loan. Link was sent to all student platforms where they will be able to apply for the loan. But so far, none of the students have testified that they've gotten any reply from the loan, the Nelfund, yet.
Okay, are you following up? You are one of the student activists. Are you following up to know why there's been no response Or maybe the MD should speak to this.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. And again, thank you for that question to
Yes.
Rashida, and thank you for your answer, Rashida. We are going through a process. We have today about 250,000 people who have registered for this loan. And the number who have actually applied is closing on 200,000. We're dispersing funds, and we have to do this in a meticulous way. We have to verify who's applying. We have to check that, you know, they're bona fide candidates. We have to fend off those who are making either multiple applications if they found a way to do that, or, you know, are not properly qualified. So we're going through a process, and what you've seen in the first level of disbursements is us really ensuring that we've vetted and therefore disbursed to those who we've verified.
I'd like you to address first access. You know, someone has asked, you know, if there are specific attention given to persons living with certain disability. And then Rashida also, and this has been a recurring question or concern, about repayment. I understand that this is intended to be like a recycling loan. I mean, you have to pay, you know, for others to, you know, for it to go around. But like Rashida, you know, raised the concern of, you know, ability to pay, and probably concern about making them, you know, debtors at a very tender age when they haven't even started.
Sure. Okay. Thank you again. Two really interesting questions. One is around people living with disabilities. You know, at this stage, we haven't actually been able to address that. But we are looking very closely at it, because the fact that a person has a disability doesn't mean that they don't have a dream. It doesn't mean they don't have capacity. It doesn't mean they don't have desire. And it doesn't mean that they can't actually get into study courses that they want to study. But we recognize that, you know, if you're paying someone's fees in its entirety, and we're giving them a stipend of, say, 20,000, they may need a wheelchair, they may need a walking cane, they may need, you know, Braille, a computer that's got a keyboard that's done in Braille. There are all sorts of things that people living with disabilities might require that what we're actually offering doesn't cover.
Precisely.
So we are actively looking at how we can begin to bring in disadvantaged groups, if you like, if I can use that expression. Groups of people who by nature have been disadvantaged in one way or the other. This is an equal opportunities program. That's what the president wants us to really push this out as. So we're going to look into that. But we're looking at this stage because part of this is really just trying to understand how this can work best. We're ready to learn, and we're ready to row backwards to see how this can work. There was a second question.
The repayment.
Right.
Yes.
Do you want me to tackle that now?
Yes, please,
Okay.
quickly, so that we can take two more questions.
Okay. Very, very quickly. The loan repayment, there is no obligation to pay the loan back until 2 years after NYSC. I use the word no obligation because after 2 years after NYSC is the time that people are required to report to the Nelfund to say, I have a job, I don't have a job. Okay. You know, we need to know. If they say they don't have a job, they can't pay. This is not one of those loans. This is not a commercial loan in that sense where we're looking to make a profit from it.
Yes, but at what rate is, okay, no interest?
Zero interest.
Zero interest.
Yes, so the law allows us to apply interest, but we decided at this stage, because of the nature of the economy, what's going on in the economy at the moment, that actually applying interest is just going to make people, it's just going to burden people who are already, you know, suffering under the pressure.
So if I'm getting 200,000 from Nelfund, at the end of 2 years, if I'm fortunate to have a job, I pay Nelfund 200,000.
That's 100% correct. If it's 10 years, you pay 200,000.
Is it at instrumental, you know, part?
Yes. So essentially, so the obligation, by the way, is on the employer to make the payment back to Nelfund. Yes. So there will be a register of loanees, and when people go and apply for this loan, the employer, the company that employs them or chooses to employ them, will go to the register and check to see if they have a loan. If they do, the obligation is on the employer to make a 10% of income remittance back to Nelfund. 10%. So if they're earning ₦1 million, they remit 100,000 on behalf of the loanee or their employee, which is what they've now become. If they're earning, ₦1 million, it's 100,000. If they're earning 100,000, it's 10,000. So essentially, it's a percentage based thing.
Fantastic, fantastic. Rashida, did you hear that? Do you have any question for the MD CEO?
I don't really have a question on the whole loan thing. I'm just trying, I want to plead with the government if there's any way they can help us students after graduating with a job so we'll be able to pay the loan back.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, MD says yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I say yes, yes. So that's a really important, you cannot offer people loans and then not offer them hope as to how they're going to pay it back. Part of the requirement or part of our objective is also to set up a skills acquisition program. We absolutely are going to be working very closely with companies and employers to say, look, we have people on our books who've taken loans to study, to learn, so that they can come and work for you. We want to know when you have vacancies. We want you to post your jobs with us. So on our website in the future, you're going to see jobs posted on our site. We're going to connect people directly with employers. We're going to organize opportunities for internships with employers. This is not a commercial loan. The profit, the main gain for Nelfund is to see that people get on and are able to move on with their lives in a positive way. And we'll give all the help we can. It will help the nation and it will help the individual. Can I just make one quick...
Yes, please.
Just because, Rashida, I don't know when the line might go off. Yeah. Rashida, I just want you to know that there is no obligation on the person applying for the loan to come from a family that's earning a certain level of money, whether it's $500,000 or 1 million or what. As far as we are concerned, we are giving a loan to the individual, not to their family. So the question of, if you come from a family that's earning 1 million, 10 million, if you're the son or daughter of a very wealthy man or woman, and they don't want to have anything to do with you, you can apply for this loan. It's not a family-based issue. This is about an individual who has a dream and an aspiration of their own.
But do you have that clause in the requirements criteria?
No, we don't. This was an old, there was a law before the president sent it for repeal and reenactment.
Yes.
In the old one, it had a 500,000 cap.
Precisely. So
the new one completely demolishes that and says you approach the fund in your own in self-recognition, if you like, to say this is what I am, this is who I am. We don't require any guarantors, no financial limits, because we don't want gateways.
Just the biodata that you supply. Which,
correct.
Right.
Correct.
So, Rashida, you heard the MD. Any other concerns you want to raise or any other appeal?
No, there is no question, ma'am. So fine.
So, what would you be, now that you have the details of the loan, firsthand, what would you do with this information now?
Yeah, as the Student Representative Council in Ahmadu Bello University's area, I will make sure to let this information I've gotten out to reach out to all the students in the school so they'll be able to apply for the loan and feel comfortable with it, not doubting the whole government thing. I will try to enlighten them about the whole loan thing and also support them in any way possible so they can apply. And we really appreciate the government for all this, the effort they are putting into supporting their students here in the country. Thank you so much.
Do you think this will now increase, enrollment in our tertiary institutions? Do you think it will now boost, the confidence and quality of our learning?
Yes, it will. It will boost the confidence of the students in all these learning institutions, and also it will help those that are not able to pay school fees, those that are thinking of maybe applying for the university but not having funds to do that. They will apply and also get admission. And thank God the federal government will also assist with the fund, and also the 20,000 they will be supporting the students with monthly. It will help us also with the accommodation and also feeding too, which will also help boost our CGPA and many others. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Rashida. Absolutely. I'm also excited with the information I'm learning. But just share with us, what are some of those challenges that you've encountered, even while processing the applications that have come to you so far?
Sure. So may I just make a few comments to Rashida? First of all, I'd like to tell Rashida that she's a champion. We're looking for champions. We're looking to work with people who want to have a proper conversation around how we make this better. And we don't want to sit, in our ivory towers, having left the world of being a student decades ago. We want to listen to the people that this affects the most. So I want to say publicly here that I'd like us to connect with Rashida as an organization and see how we can support her efforts in trying to help her colleagues. She's a true leader. We want to support you in any way we can to help your colleagues.
I hope Rashida, if she's available, please, I'd like to have Rashida again so that she can hear it from the MD and CEO's mouth, not just from my own mouth. But apart from Rashida's, the challenges and what feedback are you getting?
So, this is a data-driven project. And just to give you a very quick update on or overview as to how this works. So, there are two main gateways on the IT platform. One is called SLAS, the Student Loan Application System. This is where the student approaches the platform, provides us with their NIN, their JAM, their BVN, their matric number, and there's a drop down that shows the institution that they are, intending to or already at is listed on our portal. That goes through a process, and at the other end we have something called the SVS, the Student Verification System. These two systems talk to one another. Sorry,
can I just pause you? I hear Rashida is online. I'd like the MD to also direct, his earlier remarks to her so that Rashida can get it firsthand. Rashida, are you with us?
I'm here, ma'am.
Okay, please go ahead.
So Rashida, while you were not listening, I was just saying to Claire that you're a champion, you're a true leader, you're the sort of person that we're really looking to work with because you want to help other people. And we recognize that we can't sit upstairs and be pontificating about how things should be. We need to listen to people like you. We need to understand what your challenges are, and we need to support you. So I asked openly that we'd like to be connected with you so that we can help you help your colleagues. Thank you very much for being an outspoken leader and champion. We will listen to you and we will take into account the things that you tell us. Thank you.
Rashida, sorry, the MD has heard you. He's also extending hands of, fellowship to you to provide some support. So at the end of the program, I would avail the MD with your, contact details and also so that, he will have a direct contact with you. But let me quickly take a last question from the MD, and then that's, again, is there any intention of escalating this scheme to, other state government-owned institutions, not just government-owned institutions? And at the end of the day, how do you hope to manage, this scheme for sustainability?
Okay, so when you say extend it to state-owned institutions, do you mean tertiary-owned institutions owned by subnationals?
Yes,
owned by the states?
States, yes.
We already have.
Oh.
This is not just the federal government scheme.
Oh.
We're providing loans to student applicants from both federal institutions at tertiary level, that's universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education, it's exactly the same as to the ones that are owned by the state governments. So if that's the question, this is, as long as it's a government-owned institution,
Yes.
this loan, state or federal, this loan scheme is available.
But not privately run institution. Obviously
the law doesn't allow us to do that.
Obviously not. A final closing remarks from you.
Well, my closing remarks are this: that what we have here is a unique opportunity at a specific moment in time. We have a president in this country that has decided that he wants to focus on the youth, on young people, and not just focus on them in ways that will give them instant gratification, but will focus on them in ways that will help them become leaders of tomorrow. It's very laudable. And so what I'd like to do is let's take politics out of all of this, because these investments are going to last for decades and perhaps centuries. Let's take politics out of this and let's focus on these young people like Rashida, who absolutely need this. This is not something we can politicize, who absolutely need this opportunity to be able to move their lives forward, and who absolutely will help us if they come in multiples, in droves, to help this country be a much better place, a much more competitive place. Thank you for the opportunity.
I should be saying thank you, honestly. I should be saying thank you. Mr. Akintunde Oluwole Akintunde Sawyer, the Managing Director, CEO of Nelfund. I really appreciate your taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Thank you very much.
Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak, I thank you too. Thank you so much.
Rashida, thank you very much for also finding time to join us for the program. We do appreciate you. And I'll provide the MD's details for you. He has given me the permission to do that. Yes, thank you very much. So our time has been fast spent, and this is the point where I say thank you for watching Late Edition this day, and also thanks to the MD CEO Nelfund Akintunde Sawyer for joining us. It's been a real pleasure indeed, and of course to the Late Edition crew. Until next week, bye-bye.